That is 54,000 damage on the first hit. And welcome back to the channel. All right, we're finally able to show you the live footage of Red Guardian's buff. And I got to just tell you right now, it is spicy. I absolutely love it. We're going to show you fights in a Battlegrounds health pool, slightly more like a moderate, maybe like questing, sort of like a bigger questing, Act 8 sort of size health pool, those sorts of things. I'm going to show you long form, and then I'm also going to show you the fight that just opened my eyes and amazed me with Red Guardian. Then we're going to tell you this is about where I'm rating him relative to other champions. Hopefully you're familiar with my rating system by now. You'll take a look at it, let me know. And then at the very end, I'm just going to put it in there, a fight of him, just rank 5. He's not ascended. Ascension Dust is still a very, very valuable item, so we can't just ascend any champion we want. And you're going to see, he's still pretty darn awesome. Almost said a bad word. All right, let's go ahead and jump into this. We'll talk about his kit as we go. This is obviously the 220,000 Drax here, health. This is about the, around the Battlegrounds health pool. I purposely didn't want to have something with class advantage, and you're going to see we're just going to go in and go straight to our SP2. I'm not going to worry about the SP1. Don't worry, we will get on that and talk about that as we go. But we're just going to go in. You're going to see these nice parries. He's got this very nice, perfect block mechanic when he's got his shield up or active. You can see it in the upper left-hand corner. We've got 10 of them right now, okay? And keep this in mind. When that breaks, as you just saw as we threw the special 2, but when you fracture that shield, you get this nice trauma debuff for 12 seconds. Trauma causes each hit to deal an additional 80% of the damage recently as red burst damage. That's why we were able to finish off that Drax so incredibly fast. And yes, we did get some crits. It felt like we crit very regularly with him, and that result was not unusual. In fact, it was pretty much typical. You know me, I like to show you the typical, what you can expect out of a champion. And like I said, you're gonna see the same result with a 5-star unascended champion. So, all right, let's move on. This is now a 700,000 Drax here, so the health pool has moved up significantly. This is not something we're seeing in Battlegrounds, and this is gonna give us a perfect opportunity to talk a little bit more about his kit. You can see I'm getting these perfect parries, and that's allowing me to go in medium light and then heavy. That's really, really nice, extended timing. And the heavy is really nice because it gets additional benefits or attack based on the amount of debuffs you have active, or personal debuffs, I believe it is. For each unique debuff on the opponent, you get almost 1,200 attacks. So it's a big deal, and it refreshes your slow, fragility, and trauma debuffs. All right, so here we go. We've landed our slow, and this is an amazing slow because 1, it's off the SP1, and 2, you can refresh it. You can refresh it, which means it's usable. This is very different than what you've seen me talk about with Danny Moonstar slow and that sort of thing. This flows really well with her kit, or with his kit, and Red Guardian. Sorry, I don't want to make this a Danny video. So here we go. We're into this, and we're going to go in and get another one of our SP2s. You can see we're landing our heavy. Oh, another really nice part of his kit. When the shield is fractured, he goes passively unstoppable when he lands his heavy, because you are wanting to do a lot of heavy punishing with him if you can to really maximize him. You can see me mess up the spacing a little bit as I get familiar and comfortable with the spacing on this. But look at this damage. This is an incredibly nice damage. Remember, this was a 700,000 health Drax, and we've just completely rinsed him. I think this is going to be about 1 minute and 20 seconds. And we still haven't even shown all his utility. Yeah, 1 minute and 19 seconds. Now, this was the fight. This was the fight that made me go from like, I really like this buff. This is cool. People who are coming up in the game probably are going to want to rank him up. This is great. I don't know if he's going to be for me, but hey. And this was the one that I was like, this might be for me. This is a Weapon X, okay? And, we're not going to be able to do anything about his healing. Plus, this node has aggression regeneration. I purposely chose this one because I wanted to show you the slow and how powerful that is. I really think 2024, we're going to continue to see, I'm going to almost call it the renaissance of evade. We saw it coming in big towards the back half of 2023. So I'm sorry, in 2024, because all these spider champions, right? If you've been playing the game long enough, you remember this. Evade was one of the biggest issues for us to handle in the game. Well, here we go. So remember, all we need to do is land our special 1 to get up the slow. And so we're getting it, and that's going to stop unstoppable and evade. Now, this Weapon X is healing, and I really thought, I'm just going to show him this, and then here's the other thing I wanted to show you, is that he can block unblockable attacks if his shield is active, and remember that will stun the opponent. Well, here's the other thing, then this is the signature ability coming into play right there. As you can see, our shield is now up to 15, because whenever he is immune to something like that, right, and he's buff immune, you're going to get an extra shield charge, basically, right? Which increases your damage on the special 2. Watch the special 2 that we've got lined up. Here it comes. I wanted you to see this. That is 54,000 damage on the first hit. And, and 120. So we got almost 200,000 damage in one special 2. And now we're built up. Look at these heavies. Look at the red numbers coming off of them. Look at the crit off the heavy. And we are taking down a weapon X that has an aggression, regeneration, healing. At this point, I was like, I actually think he's going to solo this fight. I'm not going to just show them his counter with the slow and blocking unblockables. I want to show them the damage monster that is Red Guardian. It's absolutely blew my mind. I did not expect him to handle this fight this well. It really did shock me. It surprised me. And like I said, there's not a lot of champions left anymore with where my count is, and my count is very mature. Let's call it mature. I like that word for it. He's one of the champions I will now consider ranking up because I think he's going to be good in War, and I think he's going to be good in Battlegrounds. I'll show you the full ratings though when we get to it. A minute 30 to take down, I think it was a 470,000 weapon X. We don't have heal block with an aggression regeneration node on top of it. Keep that in mind. Now this is about a 7.6 million Iron Fist, and this is the first fight I'm going to show you where we have class advantage. So also keep that in mind when you're going through all these calculations for yourself. Now, this is a much bigger health pool, and I know you're going to say, like, you haven't shown us the special 3. Well, we're finally get to show the special 3. Also, some really nice utility off the special 1. You don't just get a slow, that you can also refresh, which means you can use it. But the special 1, while the opponent is suffering from a slow, Red Guardian's combat power rate is increased by 25%. Really cool, right? Because we've shown you want to get to that special 2. You want to fracture your shield with the special 2. You want that trauma debuff. You want that extra attack value of having your shield active when you throw the special 2. Now we're going to special 3. If the ablative shield is active, so you want to keep that active. Its durability is set to max, meaning 15, because we have them at the max sig. If the ablative shield is fractured, its cooldown ends immediately. Cool, because you want that back. We've talked about that. 100% chance to inflict a stun for 1.9 seconds. You can see we go in, we get a nice punish. You can see we now have 2 debuffs up, right? So you can see our heavies doing some really nice damage, some escalating damage. Plus 100% chance to inflict a 30-second fragility debuff. Attacking a fragile opponent grants 1.265 critical damage rating and reduces their block proficiency by 50%. So you are seeing we've got 3 personal debuffs up, right? We've got the slow, we've got the trauma, we've got the fragility, and you can see how much damage our heavies are now doing. Look at this, even a non-crit, I think, just did 20,000 damage. You saw a crit. Those are some big numbers. Big yellow, big red, 2 of my favorite things in this whole game. Now watch what this special 2 is gonna do. And keep in mind that I did not have my ablative shield up to 15 charges. I think it was only at 7 right there. So we're at a 200,000, just the final hit of the special 2. That was a heavy, I think, doing 100,000 damage, 100,000 damage off of a heavy. Now, I'm not going to show you this whole fight because at some point it's just this repetitive. We are completely set up. We spent like the first minute and a half of this fight getting set up. We're in a special 1, then a special 3, then to our special 2. All of this is going to be done in about 3 minutes time, and we're going to take off, I think it's 32% of Iron Fist's life. And the reason I'm pointing all of this out is we spent half of that fight just getting set up, just getting it set up. And you can see how, I think it's relatively easy, it's smooth, let's call it. It is to keep him refreshed when he's in his state. This feels like, to me, some of those Kate Bishop fights in Necropolis where they're rooting you and you're like, thank you for rooting me. Now I can punish the special very easily. That's kind of how this feels. His heavy is a very unique, short, quick heavy. So you saw me a couple times mess it up. But once I get used to it, or as I started making mistakes, I learned the spacing. It's really nice. I mean, look at this damage. We were just doing over and over and over. The heavy is refreshing. All of his debuffs. Yeah. Really like this champion. I very much like this champion. There you go. Let's go ahead and take a look at my rating system for him so you can kind of understand exactly what I'm talking about as far as where I rate him in relative value. And then, like I said, I will show you the rank 5 unascended so you can get a sense of what that will do for you. Okay, I want to give you an idea because, right, I mean, all of this is very eye-popping, it's eye-opening, but as we've talked about, so many champions in this game are very good, can do big damage, have utility, that sort of thing. Just wanted to give you an idea of this is what I'm prognosticating. These are what I see as his potential highs as we get more familiar with him, as we start using him in various modes. And this is where I see him as lows. And then this is where like I truly see him. This is a bit of like my prediction on where I believe he will end up. I'm very confident in that, of course. And so here we go. We've got general 10 out of 10. So this is like just your general power. Often you look at the abilities. How often are you grabbing this champion for questing, that sort of things? I think on the high end, he's a 9. I think on the low end, he's a 7. And I feel very confident in that 7, possibly an 8. As I showed, he's got that slow, and he's extremely well built. His flow is amazing. And flow is like how the abilities just come together, right? So what he's intended to do, the designer did a great job of being like, let's help him do that. The designer didn't put stopgaps or problems in your way. It didn't feel like the designer tried to balance him in making the champion. It's like, here's what he's supposed to do. Let's help him do it. I love champions like that. I could see that score going up, which is why I've got the potential out of 9, okay? Because remember, he's also buff immune. We didn't even talk about that. Because it's just like, that's just a given, and that is huge. We've seen what that's done for champions like Cassie Lang and Titania. Battlegrounds. I definitely see him going up to a 9. I know some of you are like, why not a 10? Like, that looked amazing. He has almost no defender strength at all. And so to get a 10, you got to be like Tigra, essentially. And I'm not sure I'm seeing that sort of wide versatility on him, but time will tell. On the low end, a 6. Like, I don't know. I want to be conservative with this stuff, and I want you all to see what the low end is, because I know people will get very excited. I know if I had Ascension, I'd be considering him right now. So I want to get that out there. I think safely, confidently, I see a 7. This is a very, very good attacker that can help you out through a lot of things. He's science, so he needs to land his debuffs, and he doesn't have power control, but he does have increased combat power rate off of his SP1 with that slow. So that may kind of like minimize that lack of power control problem he has there. War, I could see him going up to a 9 as well. It's almost the exact same conversation as Battlegrounds, so I won't belabor this point. And you can see 6 on the low end, 7, remember, buff immune. Long form. On the high end, I could see him being a 3. I don't see him currently being someone people are like, I've got to get him in order to use him in Necropolis. But I do wonder, as you saw, how much his damage can ramp, and then how nicely he can maintain it. And then if you're rooting him right next to the defender and he can just heavy over and over and over again, I think there's a possibility. We also include Grandmaster's Gauntlet and EOP, because as we saw, Crash was on stream yesterday on the Kabam stream, and he did seem to kind of talk about some other big content that might be coming our way. Not Necropolis size, but this kind of more intermediate, larger size health pools could be something we see. So I do think this is something to keep in mind. I think on the low end, a 2 after seeing that Iron Fist. And honestly, I'm going to have him as a 3. I'm going to have him as a 3. And then the total points possible is 40. And I wanted to give you an example of like where that lands. On the high end, 33. For those of you who don't know, Titania, hopefully you all see my top 10s, because this is where you're going to see a lot of this in the rating system. Titania is one of the best champions in the game, like bar none. I don't think I'm spoiling the video to tell you she's in the top 20 champions in the game, and definitely in the top 10 of her own class of science. So if it's even possible to imagine a scenario where we end up feeling like he's as good as Titania, oh boy. On the low end, I think the worst is Captain America Infinity War, who is a phenomenal champion. So phenomenal champion. If that's the worst you are as Captain America Infinity War, you're eating good. And I think I feel good about this. I feel safe. I feel safe telling like people, hey, go out. This is what I expect. Spot is phenomenal. And there was some crossover there with Spot being particularly good in Battlegrounds, being in general very powerful. So I wanted to use that as a good example of, hey, in my opinion, about the power level you can expect and what we're going to see, modes and that sort of thing in MCoC. That's my prediction. I feel really good about it. This buff is spicy. Let me know what you think we got right. Let me know what you think we got wrong. Let me know if you were like, yeah, this is what I wanted when I saw that Red Guardian buff. And then make sure you check out the video I'm going to post right here. It's the rank 5, and you're going to see what he can still do in the small health pools. It looks exactly like the Ascended version. Thank you so much for watching. Take care.